Ernie Pyle was born on August 3rd, 1900, in Dana, Indiana. His parents, Maria and William Pyle, rented and worked on an 80-acre grain farm. He was an only child, supported by two parents who stopped attending school by the eighth grade. From an early age, Ernie became bored with farm life and strived for adventure. After graduating high school in October of 1918, he enlisted in the United States Naval Reserve, but didn't get a chance to go overseas before World War I ended. The following year, in 1919, Ernie enrolled at Indiana University, where he established a strong interest in journalism. During his time at school, Ernie took advantage of all available journalism classes. He was involved with the school paper, the Indiana Daily Student. He even had the opportunity to leave his home state and fulfill his long-awaited urge to travel. During his first semester of senior year, he traveled with the school's baseball team to Japan, China, and the Philippines. Upon his return, Ernie left school before finishing college to start a journalism career. He initially worked as a reporter for the Laporte Herald-Argus. During his time as a reporter, he gained recognition and respect from his superiors. After a short time with the Herald, he moved to Washington, D.C., and began working for the Washington Daily News. His hard work continued to show, and he was promoted to copy editor. Ernie was paid $30 weekly, more money than his parents had ever experienced in the farming business. It was during his time in Washington that he met his wife, Geraldine. The couple married after 2 years of dating and left Washington to travel the country.
After Ernie and his wife finished traveling, they eventually returned to Washington, where he took a job again with Washington Daily. For the first time in his career, Ernie began writing stories on one specific topic. The topic he chose was aviation. Ernie found joy in talking with the men at the hangars and started to grow a bond with the people he interviewed. One of the essential things to Ernie was that he was liked by the people he spoke with. He recalled saying, "I suffer agony in anticipation of meeting people for fear they won't like me." He also started incorporating new techniques into his writing skills by writing more human interest pieces rather than hard-hitting news. Ernie became one of the most popular aviation writers of his time. After years of writing about aviation, he was offered a promotion to become the managing editor at Washington Daily. Making the decision was difficult, but he ultimately decided to leave his role as an aviation reporter.
In 1940, Ernie heard about Germany's invasion of France and wanted to experience battle on the front lines. At this point, Ernie had established himself as a well-known travel journalist and was well respected in his field. He had covered almost 200,000 miles and written close to 1.5 million words. When he offered the idea of traveling to England, his editor was highly against it. However, he was eventually granted permission and landed in England in December 1940. A few days after his arrival, he experienced an air raid in London. He used strong imagery to show the horror of what he witnessed. He left readers picturing London stabbed with great fires, shaken by explosions, the grind of vicious engines. His writings in London reached the eyes of thousands in America and brought some more recognition to the war. On December 7, 1941, the United States officially joined the war.
Before Ernie, journalists were not normally considered war correspondents, journalists who report from the scene of war. Ernie was friends with lots of pilots because he hung around the hangars and had late-night conversations with them. Compared to other reporters, he was quiet and calm, and it allowed him access to more information than anyone else. In the National World War II Museum article, he was described as having delicate balance, and during his time near the front lines, he did not succumb to despair, and he did not gloss over the reality of the war. He gave the American people what they wanted, honest depictions of soldiers, and gave a human face to a dehumanizing war. His whole purpose was to be a representative of the media who accompanies the armed forces without ever being a member. He was the middleman between the war and the citizens. Censorship was prominent during World War II, yet even they were so fascinated by his stories that they found it difficult to cut or block out any lines from his stories.
Ernie's columns depicting the lives of ordinary soldiers and their everyday struggles became so popular that they were published in over 400 daily newspapers nationwide throughout the Second World War. In 1944, his legacy on journalism was recognized when he won the Pulitzer Prize. Sadly, after being assigned to cover the Pacific theater of the war, He was killed on April 18, 1945, by a gunshot wound to the head on the Japanese island of Leishima. Soldiers and citizens alike mourned this great loss, as Ernie had made his mark on journalism and war coverage, unlike anyone before him.